While all the focus of 2018 Switch recaps seems to be on Smash Bros, Pokemon, Mario Tennis Aces, and more AAA titles, it's time to give some shine to the eShop exclusive games. This is our list of the 10 best eShop-only games. That means it must only be available on eShop, and we're not taking into account the fact that sometimes limited run games puts these things out in very limited physical capacity. But as long as it's not on normal store shelves and only on Nintendo's online shelves, it can count. Gabe, this was a pretty quick list, and it was surprising to me how heavily this thing tilts single player.
Yes, for a quick little spoiler, 2 games on this list have multiplayer. Everything else is a full single-player experience, and that's sort of interesting.
Madness.
Yeah, man, as big games kind of skew more towards multiplayer these days, it seems like eShop games and sometimes indie games are kind of keeping the single-player dream alive here, Zach. But there are a lot of games to talk about here, so why don't we get right into it?
Yes, indeed. And if you guys had fun with eShop titles in 2018, if you enjoyed the video, definitely hit that like button. It helps out a lot. And let us know in the comments if there's any games you think we absolutely missed. Gabe, I'm going to kick things off at number 10 with Towerfall. This is a port of a game from years back, but it's well, I don't want to spoil things of why this is a funny placement for the game, but Matt Makes Games doing masterful multiplayer work as you fire arrows and fight on limited battlefield screens, but so much can happen, so much finesse, so much skill, and so many crazy battles. I've played countless hours of Towerfall across the years, and it finds a perfect home in 2018 on Nintendo Switch.
The multiplayer experience that we had together while playing Towerfall is some of the best times I've had with Nintendo Switch. You, Jake, myself, just kind of huddled around the Nintendo Switch doing our thing. Precision is going to be the name of the game here. And, man, Zach, we know that we're both naturally competitive. We get a little bit upset when we feel like, I shot that arrow first. Like, this is like some of the most unadulterated fun on Nintendo Switch. It's pure fun with people, and it perfectly encompasses what the Switch does so well, because the gameplay is super limited. It's very basic, so single Joy-Con is perfect and ideal maybe for Towerfall. So grab this one if you don't have it yet, please.
Yeah, we get very feisty with this game, and the Switch release saw the addition of Madeline and Battling from Celeste, which was pretty darn cool and just enhanced its release towards the back half of 2018.
Yeah. At number 9, Zachary, we are going to have one of your favorite games in recent memory. Flinthook, you rave about this one because there are a lot of indie games. There's a lot of pixely indie games, but this one somehow captured your heart. You love it.
Yeah, I think Flinthook is fantastic. It is a roguelite extraordinaire, and what I love is not only does it have a unique style and a unique direction for its gameplay, but the meta is so well developed here. What I'm talking about is, yes, the runs are very fun, and the combat aboard these space pirate ships is excellent. You can slow down time, you're grappling around with your Flinthook from the title of the game, and you're fighting against crazy bosses, but there's so much to do outside the action as you prepare for your run. So you're constantly unlocking new power-ups, deciding which ones you want to equip to your character, and picking and choosing sort of, okay, do I want to go with a health-heavy build, or do I want to go with a damage-heavy build, or do I want to put points into XP gain? And it kind of evolves and shifts as the game progresses. You're looking to get through 3 ships on a run to beat a boss, and then conquer subsequent bounties as you go. It is really awesome. It's fairly cheap, and I think it is one of the most fun roguelites in recent years. It's definitely one that doesn't get discussed as much as Binding of Isaac, Enter the Gungeon, Dead Cells, etc., etc., but please don't sleep on Flinthook. Number 9 is a great spot for a really great game.
Yeah, I haven't played it anywhere near as much as you, but what I have played is really fun. The thing about roguelikes is that they're kind of a dime a dozen, but this one does stand out for the reasons you mentioned, so I still really, really like it.
Very cute enemies as well. Very creative, just art style in general. Number 8 game, we're going to take to a late year release, Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom. This game had been in development for a long time, not to be confused with Wonder Boy, even though they do at times look very similar. But Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom blew everybody away, including you, this year.
We saw tweets, Zach. I want to tell the story here, man. All right, so we got review code, and I played it a little bit, and it didn't grab me right away. It's not that it doesn't have a good intro or anything like that. It does, but some of the tweets that we started seeing from people that we respect in press and just the Nintendo circles that had review code themselves, they were talking about how this is like one of their favorite games of the year. And Zach and I just always send a text to each other saying, look, another one. This person is super in love with Monster Boy. There has to be something there that we're missing. And since it did come out December 4th, close to another little game that came out this year, another indie, super something. I don't know what the game was. Regardless, this one kind of fell by the wayside. And it wasn't until recently that I got to spend more time with it. And I'm just now trying to start to see why everybody is absolutely loving it. There's some more puzzle elements. There is shape-shifting from different, beasts. I don't know, like monsters. You could be a pig.
Monsters?
You could be a little pig. You could be a little lion with a shield. They all have different attributes, and they help you solve puzzles. It's super cool. There is a lot there. It's beautifully hand-drawn art style. Like, instantly, like, brings you in. They redid the art style. That's one of the reasons why this game was in development for so long, Zach. And, fun fact, just because you mentioned Wonder Boy, this game is a sequel to Wonder Boy, technically. So, there you go. Even though they were made by completely different companies, that's a fun little fact for you there. It's still coming to PC next year, 2019. So this is one of the rare instances where we get
this year.
This
year, Gabe. We're in the future.
Look at that.
You're that kid at school that still writes 2018 on top of your papers for at least a few weeks.
100%. All right, but no. With that said, it's cool that we got it first on Switch and Xbox and PlayStation. It came to consoles first. Other people will have a chance to experience it a little bit later. But yeah, I absolutely love Monster Boy, and I'm still playing through it right now.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to dive into it. I plan on doing that as we wait for more eShop glory this year, which is 2019. But number 7 is Dead Cells, which I'm sure is a little blasphemous for some of you, but we here at SwitchForce just didn't like Dead Cells as much as most of the major outlets. It's really good. I think the mechanics are super sound. It controls like a charm. The ideas are there. For me, it's just a bit repetitive. I think there's too much grinding through the same areas to get new weapons, and there's not as much meta. Yes, you're spending your cells on unlocking different upgrades and adding more weapons to your arsenal, but for me, it just feels a little basic, and I'm not as incentivized to play through. The runs can get really long, and so doing those over and over again without a whole lot of change in your approach, it's still really good. I cannot complain about the quality, but it just doesn't reach top 5 status for me.
For me, it's really hard to put a roguelike in my top 5, just because that genre, something about that genre kind of rubs me the wrong way. But the magic about Dead Cells is that the other genre that it uses is a Metroidvania, and that's one of my favorite genres. So that's kind of a little juxtaposition there that they have going on. They took inspiration from Binding of Isaac. As you said, the runs do get like a little bit longer here with Dead Cells, and it's still like a really, really great game. Don't get us wrong. It's the only reason it's not higher on our list is because maybe we didn't like play it as much, and I mentioned this before, but there was other shenanigans that ended up going on with the game that for me was a deterrent of my fun personally. It doesn't take away from the quality of the game whatsoever, but yeah, Dead Cells number 7 for us.
Take us to number 6, Gabe.
A game that I haven't played yet, but you swear is amazing. I'm going to get to it very soon, as I'm done with Monster Boy. This is next up on my eShop must-play list. Guacamelee 2, Zach. You love it so much, maybe because you like me and I'm a Mexican, and you think that I'm a luchador of some kind. Tell me about Guacamelee 2.
Oh, it's fantastic. Guacamelee 1 was an amazing experience a few years back, and I was so pumped to see that Switch was getting Guacamelee 2 a couple months after it released over on the Sony side of things. It's an amazing game. It has great art style. It has very, I'd say, kitschy humor, but it does hit and resonate. You don't have to be a luchador to get some laughs out of this game. The combat, though, is where it shines. It brings in a lot of other characters and co-op. I like playing it solo, but you are building your repertoire and increasing the amount of combos that you can do throughout the game, adding difficulty with the enemies, and it's a lot of like color-based combat, so making sure you're countering appropriately, using the right attacks. I find it to be very stimulating and very fun from the mental standpoint, and then there's a lot to love visually as it just oozes color. The boss fights are fun. There's a lot to do, and I think the entire concept is just executed very well. It's a premier title on PlayStation, and I was super pumped to see them bring it to Switch. It does definitely earn its number 6 spot.
Yeah, I mentioned Metroidvania as being one of my favorite genres, and this one is a shining example of one that is really, really good on Nintendo Switch. It's a little bit sad that we had to wait a bit to get it on Switch. It released on other platforms first in August. We didn't get it until December, but then when we did get it, it's a perfect fit for Switch. It is multiplayer. You can play with up to 3 other people, as you said there. Zach, I wish I had maybe 3 other Hispanic buddies to get through this, have some good time. Juan Aguacate. Do you know what aguacate means?
No.
It's avocado. His name is Juan Avocado.
Nice.
Just letting you know right there. All right. So with that, Zach, why don't you take us to the next one?
Number 5 is Grease, a game that Gabe sings about. It had a mystical effect on his psyche. It is a beautiful game. Much more of an experience, I'd say, than a game. There isn't as much going on from a moment-to-moment mechanic standpoint. But this title had a ton of effect and impact on a lot of people. Tears, fears, joy, excitement, and one of the really nice Switch-first indie releases that came out in 2018.
It is a leisurely playthrough. It is a undeniably beautifully playthrough. Like, the color palette in the game is so cool, because they don't just use like very basic red, blue, green. There is like red, blue, green, and part of the story is to bring back color into a world that no longer has any. The game has themes of depression, and it goes like way deeper than I care to spoil here for you guys. But again, quite literally bringing back color into a world where it doesn't have any, and you're solving light puzzles along the way. Zach mentions it more as an experience, and there are other games on the list that kind of fit into this. Just to mention a game that isn't on the list here, Limbo, where that's like sort of an experience. Yes, you're just kind of going, but the atmosphere in Greece definitely does it for me. I know you played it and you didn't get grabbed enough by it right away, but like you, it took me a little while to fully grasp what was going on. Once you start getting some of those powers that do change up the gameplay a little bit, it definitely opens things up. It's still a little bit of a shorter experience, which I kind of appreciate. I don't want to play a game like this for like 10 hours, because you are still like, walking to either side of the screen for a set amount of time. But I'm the one that always brings it up. Music in this game is so soothing, Zach. I felt so relaxed after a long day of powering through World of Light. This is the game that I was powered down with, so I really appreciated it for that.
Very, very nice. All right, we're into, most people say meat potatoes. I'm going to say the cake and candy of the list, the quartet of games that are undeniably awesome. Number 4 is Into the Breach, which is a strategy game from the makers of FTL. And I don't know that it's as captivating as FTL. When that game came out, it just sort of took everything over. But Into the Breach still feels slept on, especially on Switch. It did come out delayed later as compared to other platforms, but this one is fantastic. You're trying to protect the world from vicious bug attackers, building out your team, unlocking new mechs, and carefully calculating. There's a lot of downtime Into the Breach where you'll just stare at the screen and, like chess, try to plan out the move that may not be perfect, but will protect. And you can go for perfection if that's more your style, and reset and redo. The runs are long, but they are rewarding, and it's a game that is meticulous, but with purpose. And I feel like the battles there are simple. The grids are small, but the amount of thought that goes into each move and what you're trying to protect and what you're trying to do with limited resources, limited moves to try and cover this entire alien invasion, it is super cool and absolutely a must play on Switch.
I just also love how much of a departure it is from their previous game. You mentioned FTL. So, I mean, developers doing different things and not necessarily being pigeonholed to a franchise just because it's successful for them. I really like seeing that. And while I'm on that topic, Zach, I'm kind of afraid that this Team Cherry is going to be experiencing that with Hollow Knight here. But another Metroidvania game coming in at number 3. Zach, here's a little fun fact. I don't know if you knew this. Did you know that this was a Kickstarter game in 2014?
It's very crazy to think that, given its quality and its success, that it did start as a fan-funded title.
Yeah, that's so crazy to me. And the amount of money wasn't even crazy big. It was $57,000, which, for video games isn't a lot. I know it sounds like a lot, but video games do cost quite a bit. I love the Souls-like experience you get here, because when you perish, you still have to go back and gather. I don't know what they're called in this game, but I'm calling them souls in order to continue to upgrade and do things of that sort. The boss fights in this game are like brutal. I've started it recently during a road trip that I had for the holidays, and I dove in. I'm liking it so far. It's taken me a little while to get used to the combat, but it's undeniable that Hollow Knight is Team Cherry's like masterpiece.
Absolutely, a day and date announcement and release at E3, which is always fun, although it did for us make it a little tricky to put as much time as we wanted. Jake swears by this game, formerly of SwitchForce. Jake loves this game. It is longer than I think I initially expected, but that
long.
art style, and the expansions, they do provide so much eye candy and so much content. It really is addictive once you get into it, and I think it harbors a really nice understated theme and vibe, and just kind of puts you in the mood of being in this dark, dingy, buggy world that I think a lot of people really love to be a part of. There's some pretty cool, a lot of these games actually, not that they're sponsored in any way, but Fangamer is a site that makes a lot of really cool partnerships with these indie studios and then develops clothing, and I love what they've done with Hollow Knight and a future title. But before we get there, Gabe, I will take us to our number 2 game on the list. We're at the top, and first up, it's Inside, which released this year on Switch. Again, previously released on other platforms, but we didn't dock it for that. Inside is a masterpiece. I think the people over there at Playdead do incredible work at crafting short but impactful experiences. Limbo was their first, and it was loved the world over. Inside, to me, is the better game. I think it is riskier. I think it is more creepy, more intense, and has more to say. And I like it so much for that. Plus, one of the most shocking endings you will experience in gaming. It is one of the weirdest gameplay experiences. That last hour, freaky, very fun, and very hard to even spoil because you would think that we were lying.
Yeah, the dystopian world kind of just like brings you in, and you're instantly wondering like, what the heck is going on here? Why are there all these like clones, or who even knows what they are really? And this is one that we can't really talk about too much because we would get into spoiler territory, and even though it is a little bit of an older game, I feel like everyone should experience this for themselves. I kind of compare this game a little bit to Grease. I didn't want to spoil it and mention it by name when I was talking about Grease, but it is more just of a like little puzzle platformer, really. Like, you're not doing any like insane precision with your jumps or anything like that. It's more about solving puzzles to continue your adventure. But atmosphere, man, the atmosphere that this game brings, and the creepy levels almost rival what Little Nightmares does, but with a different experience, if that makes sense at all.
Oh yeah, every room feels handcrafted, and every room has an instant like pause and wow moment of what is exactly going on, trying to take it all in. And Little Nightmares, as you mentioned, would have made this list had it not seen a substantial physical release. Given the collector's edition, complete edition format, that absolutely would have been here top 5 for sure. But Inside, you can't go wrong, and it's a toss-up in terms of which of those two is more of a must-play, but nonetheless, Inside is a must-play.
Man, speaking of must-plays, number 1, Zach, this probably isn't...
What could it be?
It's not a surprise to anybody. Matt Makes Games, bookending the list here with Celeste at number 1. This is one of my favorite games on Nintendo Switch, like, at all. It doesn't matter if you're only digital, doesn't matter if you're on store shelves. There are a few experiences I feel like you should have before Celeste. The platforming is really, really difficult, but once you get into that groove, getting through those stages, through those levels, through those screens, it's so, so rewarding. Even going and getting some of those strawberries that, oh man, do I want to risk maybe failing like over and over and over again just to get the strawberry? That's kind of meaningless because they don't like mean a whole lot. You don't get a ton for really getting them, but there's so little like dying. You come back so quick, so there's like no danger in just trying. All you're losing is a few seconds. It just reloads it instantly. It would be a terrible design choice if this game like loaded you for like 5-10 seconds after every death, but they did a masterful job of making sure that the experience is always going, and while you're climbing that mountain, you get into the story, into some of the characters, and it's such a touching story. And I always bring this up, that a fact that a game that looks like this shouldn't be able to touch you emotionally the way that this game does, at least for me. And it definitely touched me in some places, Zach.
Yeah, it's really hard to think of more things to say about Celeste that we haven't already, given the praise that we issued at its launch. midway through the year, game of the year. It is a gem. You know that by now. I think the things that I'll highlight that are very fun to me is the limited moveset in Celeste is utilized for so many different kinds of jumps. Yes, it's always platforming, but I think the things that you end up doing in that game are very creative, especially in some of the later, more challenging stages. What they have you accomplishing via Madeline's limited moveset, very cool. Also of note, there is a ton of content in that game, and you need to be very good if you want to get through all of it. They're even adding some new levels in 2019, so a reason to go back and a reason to get back on board with the game if you have sat out for a while. It's a superstar title. It will be, I think, one of the all-time best indie games, and it's impressive that Matt Makes Games went from a very fun, gameplay-centric multiplayer title in Towerfall to a very fun, gameplay-centric, single-player, emotional, plot-driven game in Celeste that has all of the markings of just a straight-up 2D platformer with difficulty, but manages to pack in so much more. And I'm sure if Matt Makes Games' mom is out there, she's got to be so impressed that her son evolved and developed so much between these games and was able to layer on something so unique while retaining that extreme quality of control, of handling, of gameplay. It's just remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, it's a personal story, and for a game of the side-scrolling nature to have some of the set-piece moments that it has, where you're like being chased down by stuff. Again, I won't get into any like spoiler stuff just in case you guys haven't played it. Celeste is an absolute must-have. If you just got a Nintendo Switch for the holiday season, you have a gift card, Celeste is the first thing you should get, really, if you already have like your Smash or your Zeldas. So definitely pick this one up.
Yeah. It is the must-have experience of the year on eShop, and those are our top 10 games of the year on eShop. Let us know what you think of our list from Towerfall, Flinthook, Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom, Dead Cells, Guacamelee 2, Grease, Into the Breach, Hollow Knight Inside, all the way up to Celeste. If you've got a game that you can't believe we left off, let us know in the comments down below. Make sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed and are pumped to see what 2019 brings. Gabe, I'm going to put you on the spot. 2019? A better or worse year in the eShop?
Oh my god. There are some releases I'm really looking forward to, but Celeste is going to be so hard to... Like, a year that gave us Celeste, Hollow Knight, and Grease, and like Into the Breach. No, come on. Like, this whole list
The only thing I'll say is that 2019 has a chance to deliver more original experiences, given that many games on this list are recreated on Switch, which is fine and doesn't affect their quality, but I'll be really pumped if our 2019 top 10 houses more games that showed up for the first time and were unexpected. Plus, I know that titles like Slay the Spire and Wargroove are going to get on there, and that has me super excited, as well as many others that we do and don't know about. But we'll have to wait for those in a future video. For now, guys and girls, thanks so much for watching. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Make sure to subscribe to stay up to date on the latest and greatest from the Switch and us here at SwitchForce. For now, though, myself and Gabe love ya. SwitchForce out.